And how did they determine who's on it? I haven't gotten a response yet.
That's the composition of the new board.
Well, you shouldn't have two of those. Everybody ought to be somebody else ought to be. Why you gotta have two from Guilford County? I know they big, but so what?
I'd like to call the regular scheduled meeting of the Edgecombe County Commissioners to order. Good evening, everybody, and a Happy New Year.
Good evening. Same to you.
Safety instructions.
Safety.
Mr. Evans?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. We'd like to call on Ms. Natalie Bess, our Deputy County Manager, to give us our safety instructions.
Good evening. To provide for the safety of those attending this meeting, please listen to the following instructions in case of an emergency. First, please take a moment to note where your exits are. If an emergency arises that prompts us to evacuate, please exit this room in a quick and orderly manner through one of the two doors to your right, and then proceed to the nearest stairwell, directions to which are indicated by the exit signs. Once you exit the building, we ask that you safely cross Granville Street, which is the street that runs beside our building, to our parking lot to be safely away from the building. Our staff will provide additional direction and assistance. In the case of a tornado warning, we ask that you exit this room into the hallway, where we will all remain until it is safe to exit. In the event of an active shooter in the building, if there is an accessible escape path, please run and try to evacuate the premises. If you can't evacuate, find a place to hide where you are less likely to be found, and lock any doors that you can. And as a last resort, and only if your life is in imminent danger, please fight. Our staff will provide additional direction and assistance on what to do. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Ms. Bass. Reverend Hines, prayer, please.
Our Father and our God, we give thanks for another day, for the advancing into the year of 2024. Thank you for all the blessings you bestowed upon us, and we ask that you would guide us this year. Keep us in your presence. Guide us and direct us. Keep us from all hurt, harm, and danger. May we do those things pleasing in thy sight to make our county a better place in which to live. And as we serve, may we serve humbly with thanksgiving in our hearts. Through Jesus Christ our Lord, we do pray. Amen.
You have in your agenda package the minutes of our previous meeting. Any additions or corrections? If not, a motion.
So move.
Second.
Questions? All in favor, let it be known by the voting sign aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, the minutes are approved. Next agenda item, a public hearing is called to order, ready to propose amendments to the Code of Ordinance. The public hearing is called to order. Mr. Peters, would you please read the public notice?
Yes, sir. Notice is hereby given that a public hearing will be held on Tuesday, January 2nd, 2024 at 6 o'clock p.m. in the Jonathan Felton Commissioner's Room on the second floor of the County Administration Building located at 201 St. Andrews Street, Tarboro, North Carolina. The purpose of this public hearing is to consider and act on a proposed amendment in Chapter 2, Article 2, Board of Commissioners of the County Ordinances, Section 2-56, Meetings. The proposed amendment would change the time of the board's regular scheduled meetings as well as change the scheduling of regular meetings on months when the first Monday falls on a holiday. A copy of the proposed amendment is on display on the county's website at edgecombecountync.gov, as well as in the office of the county manager, 4th floor of the County Administration Building located at 201 St. Andrews Street, Tarboro, North Carolina, 27886. Interested parties may also request a copy of the proposed changes by calling 252-641-7834. Those who would like to share their comments on the matter are encouraged to attend the meeting in person. You may also submit a public comment via email to publiccomments@edgecombeco.com by 5 o'clock p.m. on Tuesday, January 2nd, 2024. Public comments may also be submitted by mail addressed to Eric Evans, County Manager, P.O. Box 10, Tarboro, North Carolina, 27886. All public comments received by 5 o'clock p.m. on January 2nd will be read at the Board of Commissioners meeting. Frangie Mungo, Clerk to the Board of Commissioners.
Mr. Evans?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. As you know, it has become your practice that when the first Monday falls on a holiday, to move your meeting to the Tuesday of the same week. However, our ordinances say that at Labor Day, that meeting is to be on the following Monday. Also, you recently voted to change your meeting time to 6 p.m. The proposed ordinance amendment addresses both of those. You'll note there in the language, it does state that the meetings will be at 6 p.m. and that in any meeting that falls on a holiday will be pushed to the Tuesday of the same week. Pending public comment, I recommend that you approve the ordinance amendment as presented.
At this time, ladies and gentlemen, I call for anybody, public comments. Please come forward and state your name and address for the public record.
Good evening. Good evening. My name is Dr. Tracy Phillips. I reside at 1109 U.S. Highway 301 in Whitakers, North Carolina. I come before you today to request transparency concerning the submission of Edgecombe County's annual audit report.
Ms. Phillips, could I ask you to,
My name is Dr. Phillips.
Dr. Phillips, please, could I ask you just hold those comments to the public comments, please?
I thought that's where we were.
No.
No, ma'am, this is a public hearing.
Just regarding
This
this ordinance.
The ordinance, I'm
Okay.
sorry.
Okay.
Please forgive me. Excuse me.
Excuse me. Is there anybody else to come forward for public comments on this ordinance? If not, the public hearing is adjourned, and the recommendation is to approve the amendments as presented. Is there a motion?
Second it.
Questions? All in favor, let it be known by the voting sign aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, it is approved. At this time, we will have scheduled appointments.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. First, under scheduled appointments, we have Mr. Alan Thompson, who's with Thompson Price, Scott and Adams, our auditing firm, to present our FY23 audit.
So you should have in front of you two documents, one the audit report itself and then the presentation summary. I'm going to go from the presentation summary. And if you'd be kind enough to flip over to page 1. All right, thanks a lot, sir. So on page 1, in regards to management's estimates of depreciation, management's estimate for allowance for doubtful accounts, and management's financial disclosures, we were in agreement with all of those. I'm on page 2, difficulties encountered in performing the audit. We encountered no significant difficulties in dealing with management to perform the audit. There were no uncorrected misstatements, no disagreements with management. Management did provide us with a representation letter dated December 28th. When aware that management consulted the outside accountants, auditors, etc. Under other findings or issues, I'm going to run down these real quick. In the course of testing, we noted some, when we were recalculating the water sewer utility customers, we noticed some folks that were charged an incorrect factor rate and therefore were underpaying based upon their usage. We brought that to the attention. We did have several prior period adjustments, most of which dealt with, or the larger ones dealt with, a project that was several years old. And as it came to fruition, we realized going back 5 years that some of that had been charged to expense and had to be pulled back in. In the past, historically, the last paragraph there, the county's maintained several projects, and projects are something that may go on for more than a year that's specifically designated in one fund, and that needs to be pulled out, and each one in a separate fund in order to properly maintain those. There was a budget violations. Before any expenditures go out, there needs to be a budget amendment. There was a delinquent debt service payment that was due on October 1st, 2022, that was not made until October 14th, 2022. And even though it's 14 days, it does kick up in the system with the local government commission, and and that payment needs to be made through Emma portal. There was a bond covenant that the county was not in compliance with on Water District 4 regarding a revenue bond. And then there were some Medicaid findings. Even though there were no question costs related to them, there were several Medicaid findings, if you will. If you'd be kind enough to flip over to page 5. I don't say these are all the key numbers in the audit report, but these are some of the key numbers in the audit report. And most of these are the numbers we can get asked about a lot from our presentations. So we try to put it in a succinct way For the first column there, you see June 30, 2023, and then beside it, you see the 4 prior year numbers. And so if you look at the total fund balance in the general fund, you'll see it's $34,010,000. If you were to go back to 19, you see that number is $21,304,000. So an increase of almost $13 million. Unavailable fund balance, $12,423,000. Non-spendable at $21,497,000. Total general fund expenditures at $71,360,000. Fund balance available as a percentage is 30.25. Both that percentage as well as your unassigned fund balance percentage dropped due to some due-to between funds that had to do with some ARPA transfers between that particular fund and the general fund that should clean that up and get that percentage back where it needs to be in the June 30, 2024 year. Because you can see from the top number there, the total fund balance did increase, but if you have a due from, which is a quote receivable, then it's restricted by state statute and therefore unavailable, and it reduces your unassigned. Unassigned fund balance is $12.5 million. We talked about the unassigned fund balance as a percentage at 17.54%. Revenues over and under expenses before transfers. The general fund had a negative $4,271,000. The water sewer fund had a negative $107,000. The solid waste was a negative $563,000. You can see cash there in your general fund of $25,069,000. You go back to 19, it's $14,565,000. That cash also should increase with the decrease of that due from the ARPA fund, which would make it more in line with what it should be as well, since the fund balance went up, as you saw on that top line. Cash other governmental funds is $4.6 million. Cash water sewer funds is $5.1 million. Cash solid waste is $2,853,000. Then fund balance again in the general fund is $34,010,000. Other governmental funds is a negative $305,000. Water sewer net position is $43,056,000. The net position in your solid waste fund is $837,000. You see your property tax rates there, the same for the 5 years, and the collection percentage at 95.95%. Total property valuation and levy amounts are next. And then you see the breakdown of your debt. Encouraging thing there would be your total debt went from $53,749,000 down to $41,238,000. And you see a breakdown there of your general fund revenues with total being $66,617,000. And if you flip over, you see a breakdown of your general fund expenditures by department, and it's at $70,888,000. If you flip over to page 7, we try to chart and graph some of these numbers so it's easier to see trend information, if you will. Total fund balance there in blue, and restricted, committed, and assigned there in red. You see the nice trend there on your blue for total fund balance. That red should come down when that due from clears itself up. On the bottom, analysis of fund balance available. We stopped there on red when you compare it to group weighted average because the state stopped doing that a couple years ago. We're going to try to have to do some of that on our own without the state's assistance. Because what the state did is they, instead of doing it in groups of 10 by population, they decided to do it everybody above 100 million in budget and everybody below, which is not a good comparison. If you flip over to page 8, you can see on the top of that page your assigned analysis of unassigned fund balance as a percentage. That percentage again should bump back up to what it was in the prior year with that due from clearing itself up. On the bottom there, you see the revenues over and under expenses before transfers by the general fund, water, sewer, and solid waste. And then on page 9, you see cash balances and fund balances in a pie chart with the totals underneath that, and total cash balances being $37,678,000 and total fund balances being $77,599,000. Page 10 shows property tax rates and the group weighted average when applicable, and the same thing is true on the bottom, collection percentages with its group weighted average where it was available. You see the debt analysis on page 11, trying to break that down by the type of debt, which was also, I think, on page 4 or 5 where the numbers were shown. So, on page 12, shows a breakdown by percentage of your general fund revenue and your expenditures. This is why there's always an emphasis on ad valorem taxes, because it makes up over 50% of your general fund revenue. And on the bottom, you can see where public safety, human services, education are the biggest expenditures by department. If you've been on the board for a while, you know the used to, the LGC sent out letters, and the board had to respond. But in the last 2 years, the LGC has basically put a template out there for auditors, and they say, this is what you want, we want you to present to the board, and they can respond from that, and we won't send them a letter. So basically, they want us to do some of their work, what it really amounts to. So within 60 days of tonight, you have to respond to these things, the prior period adjustments, which is on that large project for the most part. There were a couple of small ones that we went ahead and did that were not material, but you still have to respond to all of it. We've talked to your staff about that because the project was set up in the wrong fund, and so that has to be responded to. The budget violation on page 14 has to be responded to. The non-compliance with the revenue bond has to be responded to. And then there's a couple, the delinquent debt service payment also has to be responded to. Those items all have to be responded to and signed off by you as a board. And with that response, you have to tell them how you're going to make sure that doesn't happen going forward in the future. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions you've got of me. I'm always happy to answer any questions. If you call me, I'll do my best, if I don't know the answer, either tonight or when you call, to get you an answer as quickly as I can.
Any questions for the auditor? Sounds good. Hearing no questions, they'll probably have some as soon as they do it. Okay?
That's fine. Just give me a call. Happy to answer anything you got.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And thank all of you and all of us for being timely on this. Okay. Next, Mr. Davis.
Next, we have with us tonight Dr. Mark Cockrell, who's the Executive Director of Northeast Preparatory School, who's going to present an update from his school.
Good evening,
Good evening.
members. It is so it's so good to be here tonight. I am Mark Cockrell, Executive Director for Northeast Carolina Prep. And on behalf of our students and our board members and our administrative staff, we're just so appreciative to have the opportunity to come and spend a few minutes with you and talk about NECP and what we're doing out there and where we're going and hopefully how we play a part in Edgecombe County growing. I know you've seen the slides, and I'll just take a couple minutes and go through and maybe hit some highlights, and then if you have any questions at the end. I'll start out, we're kind of looking at this as we're a school, and we're a school system, but we're also a business. And we have a business opportunity, just like any other business that you are trying to bring into Edgecombe County to produce engines or pastries or whatever else. We feel like that we can play a role in that part. So we want to present this to you as an investment in us. So what is a charter school? Some of you may be more familiar than others. We are a public school. We are governed by DPI just like any other public school system. We do have a charter that we go by, and we do have an independent board of directors, just like a traditional system. State and local tax dollars are our primary sources for our charter schools. We do get tax dollars through the counties where the students, where they live. Those local funds do come to us. Other than that, we get ADMs, and it's just based on how many students walk in our building. That's what we operate on. Just like your bank account, whatever goes in, that's all you can spend. There's nothing else. We do have open enrollment. You know, there's a lot of myths out there, and, you know, I will say, I've spent over 30 years in public education, and, you know, 30 years ago when charters started, that they were, it was a bad rap, and, you know, you were kind of brainwashed for a lot of years. So the last couple of years has been a very eye-opening experience. Seeing both sides of the coin has been very eye-opening. We don't discriminate. We're not sitting there picking and choosing which students come, because if we do that, every kid we turn away, we're turning away money. And the light bill's going to be the light bill, and the rent's going to be the rent. So it's not a matter of just sitting there picking and choosing. Do we have an ideal student population? No. Do we have issues? Have you ever been around a bunch of kids that didn't have issues? I mean, we're no different than any other school, but we are solely, what we can do and what we can provide is solely dependent on the number of kids who walk in the building. So if anything, we're way over to the other side. We're going to be better at customer service and some other things, because the more parents walk out the door, the more money walks out the door. And like I said, it's going to cost the same amount of money to pay the rent and for the light bill, whether we have 1,000 kids or whether we have 700 kids. Those parts are the same. So there are some things that we do. So we do have, we don't charge tuition. I mean, there's nothing like that. So it all comes from the state and those local tax dollars from counties. One of the biggest difference, and probably the biggest difference, is there's a little bit less red tape. We do have a little bit more or less control or told what to do as far as money. We just get one big pot of money. Nothing comes to us in line items like it does a public school. We got 1,000 kids, we get money for 1,000 kids. We determine salaries. We can put money where we want to in each item. So we're not held to a state pay scale. A math teacher in a traditional setting, they're going to look at the graph and they're going to pay them X amount, and that's what it comes. Us, we can pay more, and sometimes that really works to our advantages as far as getting staff. So the fiscal piece is the biggest flexibility, but about 95% of it is just like a traditional setting, just like any other school system in the state. I'll put this up here, and I would hope that you go there and do your own homework. The numbers are what they are, and this is not about trying to take money from anyone else or bash anyone. I mean, the numbers are what they are. And I will say, you need to fund every school system the best you can, because this is different than working and producing motor parts. Because the only way we're going to change the county and change North Carolina is just by education and providing a positive experience to these kids. It makes a difference where they go to school. So this is not a competition kind of thing. It's about doing the very best we can by the students that walk in the door. So I urge you to do your own homework and look at these numbers. Some of the highlights for us: we are the only charter school in the county. 22-23, we had 922 students. We are pre-K-12. This year, our enrollment has jumped up to 1,045. That's a huge jump. We do see a lot of new families to the county. We get a lot of those. If there's no allegiance to anyone, I would dare say we get a majority of those families. We've seen some kids, the demerger that's going on. We're picking up some demerger kids. And we get a lot of kids whose parents just want to know the choice. They're just consciously making a decision, and all those decisions are different. But I would say those are the three biggest enrollment and the reason for the growth. So we were very happy with that, and we're maintaining. Our numbers are coming in. I think we're taking 7 in today. 2 are coming from Greenville, coming from Pitt County. So it's not just here. I mean, it's a lot of surrounding areas. 75% of our students so do reside in Edgecombe County. The other 25% come from Halifax, Nash, Pitt, Wilson, and Martin counties. And these people are making a very conscious decision. I mean, we have parents putting kids on buses at 6 o'clock in the morning. And when mama gets you up at 6 o'clock in the morning to get on the bus, mama's not going to get a lot of phone calls during the day about not doing homework and behavior and those kinds of things. I mean, they are making a very conscious educational decision for the kids. We are one of 2 schools in the state that has a pre-K-12 ag program. We're very proud of that. Very successful FFA chapter there. One of the myths is the athletic piece. We have a full athletic program. We don't offer football. There was football a number of years ago, and for whatever reason, the decision was made. And right now, we simply don't have the facility, nor do we have the numbers to provide football. Hopefully, one day we'll get back in the business of football, but we are in the Tar River Conference. We're a member of North Carolina High School Athletic Association. So we offer everything. We're actually going to have track this year. We don't have a track, but we're going to have a track team this year. So we'll be running around campus and looking for curves and hills and everything else that we can find. So, but there again, the reason is we need to provide that experience for the kids. And these are some things we put together. And, it's kind of hard, like I said, if you just take our name and then put Hitachi down here, and if I were coming in and building, or Sara Lee making pastries, and I'm saying we were a new pastry company coming in, and I'm saying we're at this level, and the competition's at that level. And when you look through, and that's a lot of what our parents see, if there's no allegiances and it's straight numbers, you're going to get a better return on your investment from us. And these parents are going to get a better return. And that's what they're looking at. And none of these numbers are where we want them. That's a given. We always want them higher, and that's what we're striving for. And that's what the goal is. But, as we see it, and one of the messages, we have the same goal. We both want to grow. We're at 1045. Our charter is 1,300, basically 100 students per grade level. So we want to grow a little bit more. It puts us in a healthier financial situation to be able to do that. We can offer and do more things for the kids. So we need families to come to Edgecombe County. We need families to enroll in the NECP. And for that to happen, we both got to have jobs. We got the same goals. The difference is, you guys, if we get industry here, that doesn't mean they're going to live here. We want them to live here. That's the ultimate goal. So these parents can live here, and if they don't like the educational venues that we offer in the county, they can live in another county and drive. So our goal is to provide them an option to be able to live here. And hopefully, we're going to be a part of that conversation. This is one of our latest projects, agriculture building. Very excited. Like I said, our ag program is one of the biggest on campus. This was actually funded by the last of our COVID money. So we've been kind of, creative in our budgeting, but COVID money is the very last of that. And we got a couple of donations. Very happy and surprised and pleased to get a $50,000 donation from the Rotary Club and a $75,000 donation from the Farm Bureau. And this is going to be a game changer for us. We're going to have animals on campus, and those elementary kids can go down there and see animals and have an exposure that maybe they never have before. And who knows, there's a lot of jobs in agriculture without getting your hands dirty. Technologies is a bigger part of ag right now as anything. But this is going to be a game changer for us. Right now, we've kind of laid it out in 3 phases. We are beginning the process of a track a soccer field because we don't have football, a cafeteria. We do not have a cafeteria every day. We put out tables to eat breakfast, we take them up. Every day at lunch, we put out tables and we take them up. So one, we can't have any classes in the gym third period, plus the wear and tear. And it's, you know, we just do the best we can. Our dressing rooms that we have, you could put both of them in this room right here. They're not functional. We're trying to refurbish them just so we can use them. If you've been by Northeast in the morning or in the afternoon, you can tell it's kind of a traffic jam. So we're going to try to get another road on campus. We have purchased 40 acres right next to the campus to be able to do some of these things. And this money here is coming from, we're going through a refinance. It's taken us literally a year and a half, and by June that will be taken care of. So by refinancing and again some creative budgeting, we're able to pull this off. The next phase will be a gym. I will have to say our gym is not the highlight of our campus. We cannot pull our bleachers out for basketball games. If we do, they're actually on the court. So we pull them out about 3 rows, and then, you know, you remember how you got kids sitting way up here on top, and we're just holding our breath, hoping somebody don't fall. So we've got to have a gym. Somebody's really going to get hurt. There's about this much space from out of bounds to the wall, literally. And you know, we just feel like we can do better. But that's phase 2, and that's going to take some time. We're going to have some help with that one. And then we are very, very fortunate to have a partnership with the town where we use their athletic facilities. We don't practice on campus. Our baseball, softball is off-site. Wrestling is off-site, so we're busing kids every day, or they're driving, which, you know, that always presents a problem when kids get in cars. So hopefully the goal is in a few years we can bring all those athletic events here to provide a better campus, complete our campus, and for student safety as much as anything. So as you see, this part right here, I know y'all probably look at this one. The ag building is going right here. Our cafeteria that we're going to be building, our goal is to be in this in August. If we can be in that in August, God, everybody will be so excited, and custodians, they'll be tickled to death as much as anybody. But this will be a soccer field. So these 2 things are going to happen in our driveway. And then our gym, hopefully in the future, will be here, and then as we complete our campus. So as of, well, about a month ago, about 3 weeks ago, we did finalize this tract of land right here to be able to expand our campus. So that'll put us right around 100 acres campus. So we'll have room to grow as we get to those points. And I actually added this. This is a rendering of our cafeteria. Like I said, wrestling, we're going to bring them on campus so those kids don't have to travel every day to practice and stuff. So one of the reasons we're just excited to be here, as you know, House Bill 219 was passed this year. And the highlight is we don't receive a share of local capital funding. But this does allow counties to use property taxes to direct appropriations for capital funds. It can be used for real property construction, and it goes on, you know, there's certain stipulations in there, leasing, if we were to fold, you know, everything goes back to the county. So we would ask that you just consider this, and we've added a couple things here. There are some districts and counties in the state moving in this direction. Layton County, helping charter schools. Jackson County became one of the first in the state to approve capital funding. So this would be a trend-setting decision if you were to help us in that direction. Another thing that I added, and I found this very interesting and very true. it's about the return on the investment. Because like I say, if we don't have the money, I mean, we can't hire teachers unless we got money to pay teachers. There's no one to go to, and we have to make it work every month, and you have to make it work every year. You know, and that's the hardest thing, at least from my seat, is trying to budget, and really not knowing how many kids you're gonna have from year to year. I mean, we can come up with a pretty good idea, and come close, but it gets kind of antsy there trying to hire teachers. But we think we're going to have, 100 and so here and 75 walk in the door. You know, we went from 40 kindergarten students up to about 80 this year. And, we felt like they were going to walk in the door, but God, we were all holding our breath day one, because if they didn't walk through the door, then that was just not going to be a good conversation to have with a teacher. And that's the reality of the charter world. And in the end, like I said, it's about kids. It's about providing them the best that we can provide them, and the experiences. They only get one shot at it. And each one of you, I can ask you right now, who was your favorite teacher? And somebody instantly pops in your mind. I can ask you who your worst teacher was, and somebody instantly pops in your mind. We're fortunate about 60% of our staff is retired. Our average year's experience is over 20 years. So there's not a lot that those folks haven't seen. They can handle any kind of kid with any kind of baggage that comes in the door. And the best is to see our young teachers, what great role models they have, because they're just surrounded by experience and people who don't have to work. They're there every day because they just like what they do. And that's the beauty of it. So, again, thank you for your time. Appreciate you listening. We would welcome any considerations that you could give us to help us fulfill our goals. Okay. All right. Any questions?
Any questions for us? Go ahead.
Two quick ones. You clarified, are you telling me that the only money you receive is ADM for number of students?
Yes, that and the local that comes through the counties. We bill each one of those counties, we bill them each month, because it varies each month.
Yeah. And the second question is pretty simple. Maybe it's not as simple as I think it is. What will your average class size be for 80 kindergartners?
Average class size, we stay about 20, low 20s. To be honest with you, if you know the history of the building, it was a rehab center. The rooms themselves aren't large. We can't put 30 kids in there because you can't fit them in there. So 25 is about as good as you can do, to be honest with you. I mean, and really, 6th grade, and we just added that, I would say 18 for kindergarten up to about 23, because they just can't hold the room. There's not room for desks.
And your maximum capacity is 1,300 students?
Sir?
Maximum capacity is 1,300?
It's 1,300. When we added these this year, everybody in 2 of our 3 buildings had to move. It was like a domino effect. So our pre-K building is full. Our 1-7 building, there is no more room. We've got room for 1 more year of growth in the high school building. So we wait and see on, we're gonna have a 1-6 building this year and a 7-12 building. So.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the board?
I was going to ask you why now, but when I saw House Bill 219, it answered my question.
Any other questions from?
Thank y'all so much.
Thank you.
Wait a minute. It appears that he's asking for capital improvement money, and the manager needs probably some direction from the board in terms of the board's thought. Any thoughts from the board?
Well, my thought is to look at it and tell us what you think, based on what the stipulations are from it.
That'd be something I'd like us to discuss at the retreat.
I think, okay, based on that, it appears that you could continue to have a conversation with Mr. Evans in terms of if a recommendation can come to the board So I'm suggesting that you have a conversation with Mr. Evans in terms of what kind of support the board might be able to support in terms of the capital improvement that you have requested. It appears there is an openness of the board here to look at it.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Hearing none, it's now time for public petitions. Dr. Phillips, please.
Please excuse my overzealousness. I come before you, my name is Dr. Tracy Phillips. I live at 1109 U.S. Highway 301 in Whitakers. I come before you today because I've noticed that the local government commission's website it is noticeably absent that the county's audit report is not there. But I am delighted to hear that the audit report was presented this evening. As you already know, these reports are instrumental in maintaining transparency and accountability of our taxpayer funds. Transparency upholds the adherence to rules and regulations while ensuring that information is easily accessible to those impacted by your budgetary decisions. Under the auspices of Edgecombe County leadership over the last 2 decades, the county has been grappling with a myriad of challenges. According to the North Carolina Department of Commerce, Edgecombe County is classified as economically distressed, ranked amongst the highest in the state. Since 2018, the LGC has flagged the county as a high-risk unit due to particular concerns about the county's internal controls and issues with the general fund and the water sewer fund. These concerns were recently underscored by the state auditor's report, which shed light on significant financial negligence, resulting in fines and fees incurred by the county taxpayers exceeding over $250,000. It's even more disconcerting to add that deadlines, like the one that I hear we missed this evening on the debt service, it was tardy. The audit report has been consistently late, and the deadline has been missed since 2015, when Mr. Evans assumed the role of county manager. This cavalier approach and this situation compels me to ask, when will the board intervene to address these recurring management performance issues? Decision-making appears to lack proactive vision, utilizing short-term solutions to ongoing issues, and it is evident that it seems to have no insight into the policy impacts, leading to our shrinking tax base and evidenced in voter apathy and disillusionment. Needless to say, it has taken a hefty toll on our county residents. These recurring infringements aggravate public distrust of leadership and have amplified skepticism about the Commission's ability to fulfill its duties. Regardless of the upcoming election and several unopposed commissioners, complacency must not be permitted to set in. I implore you to halt the tendency towards non-disclosure and prioritize your responsibilities. These repeated discretions sow seeds of distrust and a perceived indifference towards the well-being of our citizens has led to a collapse in confidence. Please remember that your actions and decisions remain under scrutiny. Rest assured, we, the taxpayers of Edgecombe County, are watching. Thank you for your attention to this matter, and I will see you at the next meeting.
Is there any questions? Is there anybody else to speak? Hearing none, I'm trying to move on. Good for me. Next, we move on from public, consideration of other business, Mr. Evans.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. You have a few budget amendments in your packet for your consideration. Budget amendment number 1, which you'll see is, I think, maybe 3 pages. You'll recall that you approved budgeting $1.7 million to accommodate the new compensation plan and raise in salaries that was budgeted in the salaries and benefits reserve. So this budget amendment now deploys that to the appropriate salary and related lines for each department. That does require your approval. Also, budget amendment number 2 is regarding additional funds received in the health department and that being appropriated into the necessary lines. The third budget amendment is for information only, but happy to answer any questions that you have about either of these. Recommend that you approve.
So that would be budget amendment 1 through?
1 and 2.
1 and 2?
Yes, sir.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Questions? All in favor, let it be known by the voting sign of aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, those amendments are approved. Next, Ms. Evans.
Item B is regarding mileage reimbursement rate. As you know, it's the county's practice to follow the standard mileage reimbursement rate sent by the Internal Revenue Service. Recently, the IRS issued a notice that it is increasing the rate from 65.5 cents to 67 cents per mile. I recommend that the board approves the new mileage reimbursement rate at 67 cents.
Motion?
So moved.
Second.
Questions? All in favor, let it be known by the voting sign of aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, it is approved. Next, Ms. Evans.
Item C is regarding consideration of sign-on and retention bonuses in a child welfare position. In the last few years, we have experienced higher than average vacancies in child welfare positions in our Department of Social Services, especially with social worker, investigative, and assessment and treatment positions. Though Ms. Battle, our DSS director, and her team have done an excellent job in making sure those critical services are provided, the longer we experience such high turnover, the more difficult it becomes to effectively provide those services. Most agencies across the state and nation are experiencing the same challenge. That has prompted counties to employ new strategies to mitigate the problem. As you know, we recently overhauled our compensation plan, which included raising salaries across the organization. We have already seen the new compensation plan positively impact turnover in most of our departments. However, with the social worker, investigative, and assessment and treatment position, turnover continues to be high. In fact, as of Ms. Battle's updated information, of 20 positions we have budgeted, currently only 7 are filled. So that's 13 vacancies. That's 65% vacancy in that position. We believe that is due to the ongoing competition for qualified social workers in the field, as well as the difficulty of the work of that particular position. This position provides the most intensive service of our child welfare positions and often puts the employee in difficult or even threatening circumstances. One strategy we see many counties now using is a sign-on and retention bonus. From the information Ms. Battle gathered, counties are offering between $2,000 and $20,000 for sign-on and/or retention bonuses. Though the use of such bonuses is relatively new and therefore data from large samples is not available to definitively prove its effectiveness, feedback we're receiving shows that it is a strategy worth using. Considering the dire importance of us addressing the high turnover in child welfare, and that 50% of the cost of the bonus is reimbursable from the state, which minimizes the cost to the county, I recommend that the board approves the attached sign-on and retention bonus policy and authorize staff to develop sign-on and retention bonus agreements consistent with the policy. It should also be noted that at their last meeting, there was consensus support from the Human Services Board for the use of a sign-on and retention bonus. I would like, if you would, I won't go through word for word for the policy that you have, but I do want to point out key points of this. Being that this is new, something new for us, I think it's important for us all to understand exactly what you have before you. So, as I mentioned, that this would be just for one position in the county, one position in social services, and that is the investigative/assessment and treatment position. This is a social worker position. So not all social work positions in DSS, not even all social work positions in child welfare, but just this position. As Ms. Battle has shared with me, and I mentioned just a moment ago, this is the most service-intensive position. This is the position that is out there in homes, sometimes taking children from homes and what have you. To be eligible for this, you can be eligible either as a new employee in this position, so you'll see about midway down the first page of the policy itself, that new employees and full-time status in this position are eligible for a sign-on bonus. The employee must be willing to execute a sign-on bonus agreement at the time of hire. Also eligible would be existing full-time employees in this same position. Those employees who are in that position who have completed their probationary status, which is 9 months, and have not received a sign-on bonus, would be eligible for this retention bonus. They also must be willing to execute a retention bonus agreement. Near the bottom of the first page, the amount that we're recommending in this policy is a sign-on bonus of $6,000, which would be paid in 3 installments to new full-time employees in this position. The first installment would be paid within 30 days of them starting or their first paycheck. The second installment of $2,000 within 30 days of their 12-month mark in the position, and the third within 30 days of the 24-month mark in that position. If you turn over to the second page of the policy near the top, similar with the retention bonus for existing employees who sign an agreement, they could also get a accumulation of $6,000 paid in 3 installments. Again, the first $2,000 would be paid within 30 days of them signing the agreement. The second one, $2,000 within 30 days of 12 months from that date. And then the third $2,000 would be within 30 days of the 24th month. If you look at the next paragraph, it's important that we call this out in the policy that employees are not required to accept a sign-on or retention bonus. We may have an employee that would come in and say, I don't want to make that kind of commitment, I just want to work here and see how it goes. They would not be required to sign it. But if they want to get the bonus, they would have to sign the agreement. The next section talks about repayment. Near the end of that first paragraph, you'll see it discusses the period of consecutive service would begin at the payment of the first installment and would equal 12 months for each installment, of $2,000, for a total of 36 months for 3 installments of $6,000. So in other words, an employee who signs that bonus, if they get up to, they have to give us 12 months for each $2,000, for each installment, for a total of 36 months, or 3 years. If you turn over to the next page, the policy talks about a repayment provision, and it will be prorated based on how many installments they've gotten, how long they have worked with us. The employee, if they have to repay it, if they leave before the end of that time period, then it would be withheld from their final check. And I do want to note, I should have noted this from the beginning, we base this policy off of the state's policy for this. As you know, when we consolidated to a human services agency, we consolidated social services and health department under a human services agency model. We had the option of either leaving our staff in those 2 departments under state personnel or pulling them under the umbrella of our own personnel. We pulled them under the umbrella of our own personnel. So the state has already developed a policy for those counties who are still under state personnel to use if they choose to implement it. We've modeled this policy off that state policy. So state policy indicates that that money, if it is owed, can be withheld from that final paycheck. There are reasons you'll see.
What about if it's not enough?
They will then leave owing it to the county, and we could pursue collections if we
Could we
decide
do
to.
anything that with their retirement?
No, sir, I don't think we could. We certainly, I'll make note of that, I don't think we can.
Go ahead.
You'll see there's outlined reasons that they would not have to pay it back even if they don't finish the time period. It could be either death or serious illness of the employee or immediate family member, separation of the employee, separation because the employee was unable to perform all the requirements of the position because of a medical condition. The third one is a reduction in force. If we laid them off, no fault of their own, they wouldn't have to pay it back. And then the fourth one is if the employee is promoted to a supervisory position. So if that employee is promoted to a supervisory role, even if it's within that period, then they would not have to pay it back. You'll note here that there's a provision that states that sign-on retention bonus payouts of 10 or more employees within a fiscal year will require advance approval from our CFO, and that is to determine if there is adequate funding in the budget to cover that, and then the closing statement there. So again, as you saw, I didn't go through it word for word, but I did want to point out the key parts of that policy.
Before we get a motion on it, any questions on it?
How many people do we have now that will qualify for this, that are working for us today?
So we have 7 people in that position
Total of
today.
7.
Yes.
Have we looked at any other surrounding counties that have attempted to do this, to know if there's any success or not?
Well, as I mentioned in my memo, other counties are doing it. It's still fairly new to be able to see whether or not how effective it is.
Are they doing it or already done it?
Some of them have been offering a bonus for some months.
Not just wanting to talk to any of them to see if it really was attracting people.
I did, by being on the DSS Association Board, I've talked to several counties like Forsyth, Guilford, and 4 of the people at that table had already started the bonus because they were having the same kind of problem we are.
What did they say? Is it
It's
working?
worked, and 2 of them said it's worked very much.
You're talking about
Yeah.
the Triad area where there's a great population.
Yeah, but the other one is down east, a smaller county, and she said that's the only way they've been able to really get people to come to work for them, like Bladen County.
And what are the educational requirements for this position?
Sure. Ms. Battle, you mind coming up to?
For that particular position right there, good evening.
Good evening.
The minimum requirement is a 4-year degree in the human service field, like sociology, BSW in social work, MSW in social work, a master's in sociology, those type degrees, human service related degrees. All of these positions require a 4-year degree or a master's.
Excuse me, go ahead.
It goes from a bachelor to as much as a master's, depending
Yes.
on what field it's in.
Human services, a human services field.
No experience necessary.
Let's say, to be fully qualified at this level right here, if you had an MSW and 2 years of experience from another DSS agency, you would qualify fully for this position. But we rarely get applicants who have that type of experience. So what we do is we hire them at a lower level and we work them again. So we will bring them in as a social worker 1, which is the lowest level in the social work series. So you bring them in as a social worker 1, and a social worker 1 requires a 4-year degree, a bachelor's from an accredited school in social work or even criminal justice. If you have a certain number of psychology, social work classes, you can use criminal justice. So the trick is to bring them in as a social worker 1 and let them work the number of years to reach that level which would be 3.
And right now, how many spots do we have that we need to fill? Say that again.
13.
13.
We have 13. So I have 7 social workers right now in a unit, on a team that's supposed to be 20. And out of the 7, only 1 of them have over a year of experience. She has 10 years, that's Lynette. The other 6, they have less than 1 year of experience.
Clarification. You're talking full social workers in that. You're not talking this particular position. That's not 20 people for this particular position. That's 20 people in social work.
No, sir, that's 20 social work, investigative, assessment, and treatment positions.
Are there grades in that?
Sir,
Are there grades in that as well?
what do you mean?
Is it just
1, 2,
this one grade?
Yeah, that is 1 grade by itself. That is the highest level of social work
Okay.
because of the intensity of the work. You have a social worker 1 level, you have the social worker 2, and a social worker 3. This is the social work investigative assessment and treatment, which is the highest of those. And these are the positions that are usually in all 100 counties. That's what these positions are titled. And they're the ones that are responsible for doing the investigations and the assessments for when you go out into the homes to investigate child abuse, neglect, and exploitation. These are the positions that do that.
I guess my follow-up to this is, what happens after 3 years? I mean, we're going to have to come back and do this again. Like, after 3 years, they're not getting paid the $2,000 more a year. So we're not fixing the issue here. We're just putting a Band-Aid on it.
Well, I think that's correct. This is a bonus that comes in 3 installments after the 3-year period. That's it. Our hope is that, as Ms. Battle mentioned, I think you said you only have 1 that's got more than a year experience. They don't stand there long enough to really see how, to really acclimate themselves. We feel like we need something, first of all, to get them here. We need to fill those positions. Second of all, we feel like if we can hold on to them longer than a year, they become more acclimated to the challenges of the position. They know their coworkers more, and we feel like the longer we can hold them in the position, the more likely they are to stay. Now, you're absolutely right. At the end of 3 years, they could still leave us, but at least we'll have them for those 3 years. And I don't want to, overblow this, but I also don't want to understate sort of the critical place where we are in this particular position. I mean, y'all seen many other counties, some serious challenges they face, and because of this, Ms. Battle and her team, they've worked very hard with 7 staff that's been fluctuated up and down, make sure that they go out, investigate when they get calls, that they do visits, they do placement, all of that array of services that in many cases, this can be life or death situations. Our fear is that if we don't do something, and this won't be a silver bullet, mind you, this will be just one more tool in addition to things we have done, as you know, we did, what was the pay that we did? Not hazard pay, but extraordinary pay before we increased our salaries with the new compensation plan. We've given more staffed opportunity for work from home opportunities. So this would be just one more tool that we felt like we needed.
I'm for increasing the pay to fill the positions. It was more of is this a long-term viable solution to the problem? Or are we just saying, oh, here's $2,000 a year, and then in 3 years, we're going to have to readdress, or they're just going to leave?
Possibly. I think we've done as much as we can afford on the side of salaries at this point. So I think this, again, this just one more.
It's the same thing. I mean, if you're giving them a bonus, you're giving them a salary. I mean, we're giving them a $2,000 salary increase every.
For 3 years.
For 3 years.
One time, yeah.
But you're giving them something that you're not giving them now. And when you got 7 people and you're working without 13 that you need, it's pretty obvious to me you got to try something. Like our salary, I don't think you can keep we've done all we can do there. So it's just another tool. It's just another accessory to.
A bonus is being paid out of the salary line item.
But at the end of 3 years, you know, we can determine whether it works or not, and we can also continue to do it. These were our options at the end of that 3 years. So,
And these are reimbursable, partly reimbursable positions. Plus, we don't want to get ourselves in a position where something happens because we did not have staff. Because I've been a part of the group in Raleigh that had to say Union County now owes $9 million from child welfare because proper steps, didn't have enough staff, didn't have enough training. Now it's going to cost Union County $9 million.
And you don't have to go that far. You can go to Nash County.
Right. The two
Who's
children
now
that just
taking
died.
over that particular department,
Right.
taken over by the state
am I correct
because
in
of lack of.
50%.
So I don't think we should minimize what we're doing. I think it's a good thing. We're doing something, and we recognize.
I think we universally agree that this is, I'm not arguing that we should not do this, I just want to clarify that. I'm arguing that we need a longer-term solution to.
But there's no solution that we can do if people's mindsets and hearts don't change that go against children's rights. So, you know, in 3 years, it could be in any position that we're going to have to reclassify, change over because they were not satisfied. But we've got to start with this. We've got to make sure that we have a place that people want to come, that we're doing more for our employees to make sure that they know that they're being encouraged to stay. Once they get here, if we have the right kind of atmosphere, people will stay and work. And some that come is not going to be just because of money. They're going to stay because it's their passion and what they're here to do.
But the bottom line is, I want more money.
Everybody does.
I think
We don't
it's
get it, but-
I'm going to go ahead and put it on my calendar to reach out to you and say, what do we need to do for a long-term solution? And we'll just pass this tonight.
well, I think it's a question for us to have staff work on what they consider to be a long-term solution. And if there are additional suggestions that they can make to us, I think the most important thing that's been stated by the board is that we are attempting to prevent other issues that could arise for lack of, okay? If we're making those efforts as a board, then I think we're working on it. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Questions? Any additional questions? All in favor, let it be known by the vote sign aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, it is approved.
Oh, Mr. Thorne, you will be happy to know that in April, there's going to be a conference, and this is one of the topics, long-range planning, because so many around the state are missing. I'll make sure you know where it is.
I forgot a while ago, was there anybody else here to speak at public petition? I see, sir, you here. Did you have anything that you wanted to, or somebody I'm not familiar with? Did you want to address the board, sir?
No, I'm just here for the first time.
Okay.
Really a homegrown person that been attending, retired, homegrown person that attended all Pressfield meetings when we attended schools.
Well, I just want to make sure I give you the opportunity to, okay.
Can I get one more question?
Go ahead.
Mr. Hodges, would you mind pulling your microphone close? I think they're having a hard time picking.
My question is, how far behind are we in terms of compared to Nash County, only because that's the closest county, in terms of salary in that position, beginning salary? Do you know?
I don't know right offhand. Do you know what
Mr.
starting
Bowden?
salary is?
That's the root of my question.
We can look that
I
up.
would like to see two things. I'd like to see the job description of this position, and I'd like to see the salary, and I'd like to see it compared to, unfortunately, Nash or Halifax. I just want to see, I'm like Mr. Thorne, I'm not against this at all, but I want to do some more research on it.
Next, go ahead, Ms. Evans.
You know it more, but we can.
Next is regarding a grant we're receiving from East Point. We've been awarded a $60,000 grant from East Point through their county initiative for the impact of opioid use program. These funds will be used to purchase critical equipment for our community paramedic program. A list of the approved equipment is included in the grant agreement. I recommend that you approve the acceptance of this agreement with its accompanying project work.
Motion? Second?
Second.
Questions? All in favor, let it be known by the voting sign aye.
Aye.
All opposed, hearing none, it is approved. Go ahead.
Next is regarding new fee schedule for a new fee in the health department. The health department fee for PCV 20, which is a pneumonia vaccine, which is replacing PCV 13. The proposed fee is $288, which includes the cost of the vaccine itself and the cost to administer it. At their last meeting, the Human Services Board unanimously approved recommending the new fee.
Motion?
Second.
Questions? All in favor, let it be known by the voting sign aye.
Aye.
All opposed, hearing none, it is approved. Next.
You have presented for your consideration a total of $988.75 for bad debt write-off in the health department. This will be for our last 6-month period. As you heard us say before, this does not mean that there will be no further efforts to collect the debt. In fact, if any new activity shows up on any of the accounts, the patient presents at the health department, then the account will be reactivated. This is a financial tool that we use, and I recommend that you approve. This was also recommended by the Human Services Board.
Motion?
So moved.
Second.
Questions? All in favor, let it be known by the voting sign aye.
Aye.
All opposed, hearing none, it is approved.
Item G regarding Golden Leaf Grant. As you may recall, the Golden Leaf Foundation awarded Carolinas Gateway Partnership a grant in the amount of $7,537,500 to construct water and wastewater lines, road access improvements, and conduct a groundwater study at the Kingsborough mega site. A portion of these funds were to extend wastewater to the training center that we had planned. However, with the training center construction funds being rescinded from Golden Leaf, there are funds now remaining in that project. After discussions with Golden Leaf, they have agreed to repurpose the remaining $3,502,645.77 to construct a water line extension along Leonard Wiggins Parkway, and that Edgecombe County would be the grantee moving forward. Before you is the revised grantee acknowledgement and agreement from Golden Leaf, Edgecombe County in that same amount. I recommend that you approve the acceptance of this revised grant agreement as presented.
Motion?
I'll make that motion.
Second?
Second.
Questions?
How much is left to do that line? If it's more than this.
Oh, this is the infrastructure grant. This was the $7 million. The
Right.
$10 million I think you're thinking of, that was actually to construct the training center.
But I mean, to run the line, how much money?
To run
The
the,
water line they're talking about?
this $3 million, 3.5 million.
Other than this, I'm sorry.
Other than this needs,
Yeah,
to- this,
I'm
this
trying to find out the final cost here.
So,
I'm sorry, I didn't make myself very clear there.
no,
Thank
it's
you.
fine. The 3.5 million is actually that's enough to construct a water line extension along Leonard Wiggins Parkway. We're anticipating somewhere around about $300,000 or $400,000 being less, so it looks like it's only gonna cost around 3.1 to run this water line.
Right.
We're going to then, in turn, hopefully take the remaining funds and go towards the 14.2 million that we granted from the state for the wastewater line extension to
Yeah,
service King.
that was all I was trying to figure out, how much it was gonna cost.
Yes, sir.
Sorry.
No problem.
Did I carry the motion?
Not yet, 'cause I asked the question.
Right. Sometimes we're asking.
Okay.
All in favor, let it be known by the voting sign aye. Aye. All opposed, hearing none, it is approved. Okay, next.
Item H is regarding revisions to our compensation plan. As we've continued to review our new compensation plan, we've identified additional corrections and additions to be made. Below is a summary of those changes, which corresponds to the number on the draft updates attached. You'll see most of these are relatively or technical changes. I do want to point out number 7 there on that list. You'll recall we had a grant administrator / accountant position that you all approved some time back. We had the position filled, the person left. since Ms. Barfield has been here, let her wait till she decides she's ready to fill that position. In reviewing the job description, she's determined that that position could be better used if repurposed. So you'll see that there is a new job description attached, and we're moving that position up on the pay scale to create this new position that is titled Financial Reporting Administrator. So we are repurposing that grant administrator accounting. It'll still be a position in the finance department.
But what will it do?
So you'll see there's the job description attached. It will do financial reporting, compliance, financial statement preparation, work along with Ms. Barfield and her team on audits, the annual audit, overseeing grants that we have. You know, that was the original purpose of it, is so that we could, that position could track all the grants that we have, know how much we've got, how much has been spent, how much has been reimbursed, and have a tracking of all of that. So that's still encompassed in this position. I recommend that you approve as presented.
Second.
I'm seconding.
Questions?
Look like it's gonna fix everything that's wrong.
All in favor, let it be known by the voting sign, aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, it is approved. Appointments, Parks and Recreation, Mr. Kevin Atkins resigned. Ms. Alondra Whitaker is recommended to replace him as board at large. The recommendation is for Ms. Whitaker to take that appointment. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Questions? All in favor, let it be known by the voting sign, aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, it is approved. Contracts for review and approval.
After list and release.
After list and release for review and approval, are there any? Ms. Evans?
Yes, sir. Presented in your packet there. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for that? Is there a motion to approve? Second? Second. Questions? All in favor, let it be known by the voting sign, aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, they are approved. Contracts, Ms. Evans?
The only thing you have before you tonight is a change order. This is change order number 2 with TA Leving Company. This is for District 6 infrastructure project, increasing the contract by just under $26,000. This is for additional work added to the scope as described in the change order attached. The additional cost of this is covered by the current funding that we have secure. I recommend that you approve.
Motion?
I'll second that.
Okay.
Already paid for.
Questions? All in favor, let it be known by the voting sign, aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, they are approved. Departmental reports for review. The water and sewer, any questions from the board? Monthly financial statement, Ms. Evans.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. I'll call Ms. Barfield up to give you a summary of your monthly financial report.
Good evening, Commissioners.
Good evening.
Not a lot to report in our financial reports this month. As you can see, our net revenues are continuing to go up, and they're still lagging somewhat behind our expenditures. And that's mainly because we have a lot of we pay up front first and get reimbursed later. I don't really have anything particular to call out to your attention unless you have any questions for me.
Any questions for Ms. Barfield? Hearing none, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, while she's standing here at the podium, I do want to recognize Ms. Barfield and her staff for the hard work that they put in working with our auditor to get the audit done in the timely manner that they did. Also, you know, other staff members and other departments have pieces of that. Ms. Barfield really orchestrated that and put in a lot of hours over the last couple of months, especially the last few weeks, and I just want to commend her and her staff for that extra effort that they put forward to get that in before the end of December. So,
Thank you. It was an honor to serve.
Thank you so much.
Getting off the list.
Any comments on Department of Social Services?
Also, there's commendation there in your packet for Ms. Ballard and her team. You see that there's a memo there from North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services regarding, it says to celebrate, they're meeting foster care visit requirements. There's certain benchmarks that they are required to meet. They met and exceeded some of those and received commendation from that division in the Department of Health and Human Services. So publicly, I wanted to congratulate Ms. Ball and her team on that as well.
Good job.
Good job.
Somebody working around here.
Yeah. Sometimes I thought I was in the wrong county.
We've always.
Manager's report was in.
You have a number of items there. Happy to answer any questions that you might have. I do want to point out item E, update on vehicle purchase for the sheriff's office. As you know, you voted to appropriate $1 million in capital purchase line for vehicles for the sheriff's office. That was then in addition to the $125,000 already appropriated in the budget. We also had some proceeds from insurance claims for a couple of vehicles that were in accidents in the sheriff's office. So went through the process, and we now have 18 vehicles on order, including upfit and radios. And so hopefully we'll start seeing those come in pretty soon. But I want to thank Ms. Barfield and her staff, particularly Dee Waters, who worked with the sheriff's team and putting that request for a bid out and working through that process. And so hope be glad to see those new vehicles coming in.
Now, do we still have money left in that line item to buy
No,
this?
sir.
That took care of all of that?
That took care.
Okay, that took care of it, okay.
Yes, sir.
Any other?
Just ask if you would save the date. If you go ahead and put on your calendar for your retreat on March the 11th. That's about the Monday in March that we normally have it. Location to be determined, but if you will, go ahead and mark that on your calendar. Or if you see that that date is going to be challenging for some reason, let us know as soon as possible.
I think I'd also say, if the commission's got anything that they think we need, the subject matters that we need to deal with at the retreat, even if it takes another day, those are the things that we need to do. Please let Mr. Evans know, because we might need more time than one day.
You have a location yet?
Not yet. I'll let you know.
I just pencil that date?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Thank you. Also, the Association of County Commissioners sent us information about their upcoming district meeting, which will be on January 22nd in Wilson. I think a copy of that is in your agenda packet. And Farm City Breakfast is, I need to correct that date, is Thursday, the 4th, not the 7th, but January 4th at 7:30 a.m. And for those of you who've attended, know that's a wonderful annual event that we have, and so looking forward to that this coming Thursday. I don't have it on the agenda, but you do have a copy at your seat of a letter recently received from Lisa Jarman, the clerk to East Point Human Services Board, identifying those members of their board that will now be serving on the new consolidated board. As you'll recall, East Point, Sand Hills, and Trillium, those three regions consolidated, in fact, effective yesterday, I guess, into one region. They met at some point to decide on which of those board members from East Point will be serving on this new consolidated board. Of course, I was disappointed looking down that list not to see a representative from Edgecombe County. I did respond to the email asking if they could give some clarification on what the process was to determine who would serve. Would we ever have an opportunity to have representation? I've not gotten a response to that yet, but as soon as I do, I'll be happy to share that with them.
Let us know maybe how many counties in here that don't have representatives too.
Sure.
I don't know how many counties are in the district. Okay.
But this is a wide stretch right here.
Yeah.
All the way to Guilford County.
That's all I have under my report, Mr. Chairman.
At this time, moving on, any commissioners' report?
I would just like to take a moment of personal privilege to thank the board and Mr. Evans for attending my mother-in-law's funeral, Betty Lewis. She was well deserving of it, and I appreciate it, and a lot of people said it was a very nice touch. And I do appreciate it. She was a good person.
Yeah.
Thank you for.
She worked at our health department, too.
A long time. Well, she worked at it. She started the
Hospice.
hospice.
Home care.
She was
Thank you,
my
sir.
nurse at the daycare.
Any other commissioners? Hearing none. Attorney?
No, sir.
At this time, ladies and gentlemen, we're scheduled to go into an executive session to discuss economic development
And personnel, Mr. Chairman.
and personnel.
Yes, sir.
Is there a motion to go in closed session?
So move.
Second.
Questions? All in favor, that'll be known by voting sign aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, we will now be going into executive session. Thank you so much for coming.
did 5 hours. They still did the 5 hours.
I was like, I get to watch the second half of the Carolina game.
You know, we
Still did all them 4 hours.
really gonna have long executive sessions,
7:30 we live.
for the next few months. We can look for that as we
Maybe
deal
we can
with these.
shorten the other part.
We need to shorten something.
Take out the comment, public comment. You take that public comment.
Was
That public
is there anything else to come in public session?
Open session.
Open session.
Open
Is there anything else?
No, sir, nothing from staff.
Well, I'm gonna hold this meeting 5 more minutes while I have some motion. Is there a motion to adjourn? So moved.
Second.
Questions? All in favor, let me know by the vote side aye. All opposed, here none, we now stand adjourned.
I think you're the second on every single one since I've been on.
Say what?
It's one of those.
The second to adjourn on every single one.
Sometimes I'm the first.
We get about 6 seconds.